Everybody, I think we're live. Hey, it's Steve Rosenbaum. Look, I got a new lower third here called the Rainmaker Maker, which I'm going to talk about today. But welcome to Second Act Career Success. Got our buddy Lee Cole with us, who is a year older from last time you met him. Lee, how are you?
It's amazing that you could get a year older in just a few days, but I managed to do it. I'm doing great.
Happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Happy birthday. You know what the cool thing was? I messaged you the other day and I said, hey, Lee, how you doing? And you said, hey, I'm not going to talk to you today. I'm taking the day off to celebrate my birthday, which I thought was cool.
You know, I really did, and that was a lot of fun. I can't really remember what – it's not like I did anything amazingly special.
You just didn't talk to me.
I'm sorry about that, but I know what I did. Me and my son went out to this airsoft BB gun place and looked at all kinds of cool airsoft guns. I mean, this is a whole, like, another world. Yet another one of those examples, because this particular company, Airsoft, I think they're based here in Atlanta. At least they have one place in Atlanta. But it's not a big store, but they do mega business online. It's just another example of how you could take a business like that is so specialized, and with the internet, you can make a big business out of it. Just yet another example of how that works.
Exactly. Oh, Ken! Wow, Ken, way to make friends, huh? Ken says you look good for 89, Lee.
Ken, I nearly said a bad word, but I'm getting a little better at that as I get older. But you know. You fill in the blanks. Hey,
I want to get started, but of course I have to have my product placement here. Check out this fella.
Ooh, yeah.
This is a Cuevas from Babalu. I like this. It almost looks like one of those that you see the bad guy in a cartoon, like Rocky and Bullwinkle smoking, right? You expect it just to explode when you light it.
Exactly.
So this is, yeah.
I was thinking it looked like the first submarine.
Yeah.
the one that sank the boat off Charleston Harbor.
Yeah. Well, it's called a Cuevas. We're going to light that sucker up in a second here. Today, Lee, I thought we'd talk about becoming the authority, about adding credibility, becoming the expert, people that look up to you. You know, how are you able to get people to look at you in that way if you're just getting started in this second act career? Maybe you think you're starting over from the bottom. Maybe you're having some hard times. Maybe you're not quite sure that you know what you're doing. I think that's something that a lot of people in their second act probably wrestle with, and I want to talk about that today. What do you think, Lee? You talk a little bit so I get lit up.
Okay. As Steve gets lit up, I will cover for him.
All right.
That didn't quite come out right, did it?
No, it came out exactly the way I wanted it to come out.
But anyway, yeah, sure. It's a huge issue because it's not an issue. I think it's a real showstopper for a lot of people, and I understand why. Because people being generally of a good heart think that I can't tell somebody how to do something until I've done it, and that's actually true. But then it's the definition of having done it, that's really the issue. I was trying to explain this to somebody. I sold some coaching about a year ago about how to create a business selling products, which is one of the things that I do. And am I the world's expert on that? No, but I make a very good living from doing that, so I guess I qualify as knowing a little bit about what I'm doing. And I had one guy that was really in it, just working everything, and then he just stopped. He just stopped, and he said, well, I'm just having real trouble getting over this issue. And I said, well, let me tell you something. I used to teach mathematics, and one of the things that I taught was calculus. And that was invented in the 1600s by Isaac Newton and Leibniz, and I'm not that old. So part of it is giving yourself permission to package information for people as opposed to having created it. You know, virtually all the information that you get in books, DVDs, wherever on the internet, you didn't get it from the person that created it. You got it from the person that packaged it. And even if you get information from somebody who's got a new slant on things, I mean, it's definitely theirs. It's a creative, you know, it's obviously a creative thing. It's got their stamp of their personality on it. They still didn't get 90% of that from their heads. I mean, they are repackaging, basically digesting, and, you know, pouring back out a lot of other information. So I think one thing is people need to understand that just because you're teaching somebody something does not mean that you have to be the absolute first creator of it. All right, so that's number one. Number two is understand that you can be honest with people. I mean, it's probably not going to work if you're going to say, hey, I just learned this off of a $7 WSO that I bought this morning. That probably won't work. But it is okay to say to people, you know, this is where I am, this is what I've done, and this is what I've got to teach you, and this is where I'm headed. This is the journey that I'm going on. I mean, look at you and me. Are we, you know, podcasting, personal branding, Uber gurus? No, but we have a lot of those, that constellation of things. But we don't have a website with 1 million hits on it, right? You know, per year or something like that. You know, yeah. So that is a huge thing, Steve. I'm really glad that you brought that up, because that dovetails with the tribe idea and finding people who are interested in stuff that you're interested in, and using the internet to do that. But then you got to give yourself permission to. Somebody told me the other day, if it was you, I apologize. You know, as we were talking, I've had a really horrendous 2 days technologically, so my brain is fried. But somebody was telling me the other day, you know, it's all you're doing really is being a leader. Being a leader is a little different from being an expert. You know, being a leader is being honest and truthful, but having the guts to go in a certain direction. Being an expert is being the genius that's got it all figured out. There's a nuance there that I think that people need to understand. And really what people need are leaders.
Lee, you said so much there. I've actually been writing it down. There was so much brilliance in the things that you said. I love when you say that most people today aren't inventing the new things. They're packaging, repackaging, repurposing. And that's exactly right. That is so dead right on. And so many people are worried that, well, I didn't invent that. Nobody said you had to invent that. Well, I tell stories all the time in marketing about Richard Sears back in the 1800s and how he got started. And the fact is that the things that we do today are really exactly what he did back then, and all that's changed is technology. He leveraged technology. He leveraged the best technology, the fastest technology available at the time, and it was called the steam locomotive. You know, so you know that was technology in his day, and he leveraged it to get to targeted, you know, markets, i.e., people that lived near train depots and things like that, and so forth. And he was very brilliant in the way that he did it. The things that we do today, our methods are exactly the same. It really has been a long time, I think, since people have really invented in terms of methodologies. Now, technology is a different story. And that's why I always say that technology changes nothing, but it improves everything, except that you and I can't seem to get our technological act together. I'm wearing these earbuds, you're wearing the headphones, and people still say there's an echo. So, so much for technology improving everything. You know, when I'm coaching, I spend so much time trying to draw this out of folks. Everybody's passionate about something. Everybody loves something. Everybody's got special interests. You've got fascinating ones with, you know, your war history, or you're collecting your printed literature and stuff. That's phenomenal. You know, everybody's got something. And, you know, when you can figure a way to really package your second act around those passions, I think people are also, you said people are looking to leaders. Well, leaders inspire, and leaders have the confidence, and leaders are passionate. You look at somebody and you say, Well, they're passionate. They look like they like what they're doing. They look like they're successful at what they're doing. And in order to achieve that, you really have to be doing something that you like. It's really, really, really hard to be passionate about something that that you really hate. I guess you could be passionate about hating something too, but people, you're not going to inspire a lot of people with that. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely. That is a really, really great point. You know, this gets back to what we were talking about, the internet, and how a lot of people think that you just hide behind a computer in these online businesses, when in point of fact, they are very people-oriented. Um, and a lot of people think, I think that you could, I mean, you could, I guess, create a whole persona of something, but man, you would have to, I mean, you would have to manage that message as well as the Central Intelligence Agency does to make that work. I mean, people pick up on phoniness so fast online, so much faster than they do in real life, oddly enough. Real life, i.e. non-online stuff. And, you know, but people also, the reverse of that is people just latch on to authenticity. It doesn't have to be expert authenticity. It has to be like, I am totally in on this. I love this. You know, I'm living this. Whether I quit my job 6 months ago and I am now just like totally immersed in this, and I'm a pig in mud, or whether I've been doing it a few years, either way, people love that. I'm not going to mention a name, but I met a new product creator online. I basically was sitting at Starbucks with nothing to do. And so I was on my phone, and I was just looking through different products that were selling, and I noticed there was this product that was selling pretty well. This is in the internet marketing space. And I noticed this product was selling pretty well, but it had really low sales numbers. But the various indicators, you know, the EPCs and all that, were pretty high. And I thought, man, that's kind of crazy. And then I thought, I don't know this person. And that's rare, because I know virtually everybody. So I just hit him up and I said, okay, dude, what's the deal here? I mean, who are you? What have you done? And like that. And this was a guy who basically has started, you know, just somebody who was willing to jump in the deep end of the pool and actually make it happen. He's totally fascinated by online marketing. He's been doing it in a non-IM niche for 2 or 3 years, but in a niche totally unrelated to anything, you know, internet marketing. And he decided that he wanted to take that expertise and create products. And I mean, he just hit the ground running. Was he making big sales? No, it wasn't making big sales. Matter of fact, yours truly pretty much put him in business, because I liked his products so much that I sold like 200 of them or something like that. Which, you know, if you know what you're doing and you got a nice new list of 200 people that like you, you can get some traction off of that. But my point is, you know, that was so refreshing to see this guy, because he was brand new, he was totally wet behind the ears. There were a bunch of things that he was doing wrong. The one thing that he wasn't doing wrong was he was totally passionate. You know, we got on Skype, we talked for like an hour and a half. I mean, so you're apparently coming back. I'll keep talking. We got on Skype, we talked for an hour and a half, and, you know, we had a lot of commonalities outside of the internet marketing world, believe it or not. And it was totally cool just watching this guy get traction with this thing. And the real thing that was making it work was the fact that he was totally passionate about it. That he wasn't worried about all the mistakes, and he wasn't worried about perfection, and he wasn't really worried about how many units he sold, and he wasn't really worried about, you know, whether he was making a 6-figure income instantly or any nonsense like that. The only thing that inspired him was, you know, and in his mind he said, I decided to do this, I did it, people are loving it, you know, it's totally cool. And I loved that. I thought that was so amazing. And that is like a case study for, I'm going to say a bad word in just a minute, that is a case study for getting off your ass and making stuff happen fast. And the real key there is the getting off the ass part.
Excellently. So, that's a perfect segue for me because I want to talk about, you know, I've put a lot of stuff out there. People see me put a lot of stuff, yet sometimes I have trouble getting off my ass, it seems like things. And, certain things I've wanted to do forever, and they seem to get relegated or delegated to the back burner. And the past couple of weeks has been great, where some things have finally come. I finally taken them off the back burner. I finally got off my ass and said I'm going to do something about it. And so I'm very proud of it. And frankly, there are two things that really help me with positioning myself as an expert. And I wanted to share them today.
Mm-hmm.
Because literally in the past 2 days, I've done something that I'm so thrilled about because I could send out already. I want to share my screen if that's okay.
Sure,
Let me share
yeah,
my
please.
screen here. Check this out. Now, if you guys follow me online, you've seen me talking about this because I'm very excited about it. But I want to show you, and then I want to talk to you about what does that mean. So let's see here. Entire screen. This is probably going to give us one of those reverb things. Let's see here.
It's probably going to blow up part of Austin, Texas.
Can you see iTunes on my screen?
Nope.
No? That's not what's showing?
Well, that's not what I'm seeing.
Oh, I didn't push the share button. That's why.
Okay. Minor detail.
Yeah, minor detail. Okay, let's do that. And let's do this. Now, can you see iTunes on my screen?
Yes, actually we can.
Well, look at that, folks. That's me. That's my podcast.
Man,
Now,
that is so cool.
and look, this is iTunes. I'm at itunes.apple.com. There I am. You know how long this took me to get up here? 2 days. 2 days.
Very cool.
That's been on the back burner forever. I needed to get off my ass and do it. And the thing that motivated me, frankly, was a piece of software that came out that really made it easy. And I've been writing about it and promoting it.
Right.
We kind of have a no-pitch thing here, and I'm not going to mention it here, but if you're interested, you follow me online and you'll see it. All right? But the bottom line is, in terms of credibility, how credible does that look? If I were to meet you and follow up with a letter and say, hey, if you're interested in the type of stuff that I'm all about, you can go listen to my podcast right here. How credible does this look?
That gives you amazing cred right there. That is amazing. I'll love that.
Isn't that cool? And check out
It's extremely cool.
Look at this graphic. I absolutely love that graphic. I got it from a guy on Fiverr.
Oh yeah, Fiverr is. I love Fiverr. It's amazing.
And I paid for the expedited service and the Facebook and everything else. I mean, I went all out. It cost me $30. $30 in 24 hours. Now, you can't beat that.
That is very cool.
Yeah. Now, on top of that, the other thing is, of course, within the past few weeks, you know that my book came out. So what do? Right? Well, this is a book by Joel Comm that I'm a co-author in. I'm one of the 40 authors here, and my name is listed right on the front cover here. All right? And, I've got my author page on Amazon. So, again, you talk about a credibility builder. This is stuff that literally, obviously, all of us can do it. All right? This book, it cost me a little bit of money. I'll talk about that in a second. My other book, Back-End Blueprint, cost me virtually nothing. All right? And this was something else called Weapons for Warriors that I have a chapter in that cost me literally nothing. But I've got, 3 books here on Amazon. Frankly, I've written about 6, so there's about 3 more that I could list on Amazon that I got to get off my ass and do that. But the bottom line is all of us have this available to us where we could have a listing on iTunes, a listing on Amazon, several others that we can think about. We can have our own page on Facebook with our own following. And all this stuff obviously gives you some instant credibility and expert status because not everybody knows how easy it is, and maybe for most folks it isn't. But for all of us in our little circle, it is. We know how to do these things.
That is really inspiring because you're going to get an incredible amount of traction out of that. Just by, look, so you got iTunes, you got the book, you got the Facebook page, it's always amazing to me how many people bump into me in different places, even though I didn't really design that, because I'm frankly not organized enough to design stuff like that. I'm more of a, I'm more of a, I don't know the right metaphor, but one of my business partners, you will know who I'm talking about, who's just like super organized, right? And she and I were talking, and I said, I guess you figured out I'm not that organized, and that would just like cause minutes of hilarity on Skype. But even I, just by putting stuff out there, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, various places. I mean, I have people saying, I ran into you here, I ran into you there, I ran into you over there. I'm thinking, wow, that's kind of cool, because I didn't really design that to happen. It just sort of happened. It shows you the power of this stuff. That even, if you bottom line here, if you're putting out content and screwing up how you're putting it out, which I'm a poster child for, it's still going to work. See what I'm saying? And we're not hearing you.
Okay, here.
Now we're hearing you.
I muted myself when I wasn't talking, and it just said I'm trying to minimize the echo as much as possible. I know some people are having trouble. So the thing that I do want to mention, and Lee, I might ask you to do the same thing, because I do think we're getting some stuff from you. The other thing about it is not only is it online, but a lot of folks, we talked about not just hiding behind the computer, and I think it's so true. But, you can get printed versions of these too. Now this one, my back-end blueprint, this is not a very big book. I think it's about 90 pages long. But this thing cost me literally $1.50 or $2 a copy. And so I always have about 100 of them at my house. Okay, I just keep a couple cases around. And it literally is my business card. I don't just pass them out to anybody, but I keep them in my trunk. And when somebody, if I'm talking to somebody and I engage them in a conversation, and they say, do you have a business card? I said, I don't. But if you hang on a second, I'll get you a copy of my book out of my trunk. And then I come and I autograph it for them, and I make a little joke, and I say, now you'll be able to get about twice as much for it on eBay. But the bottom line is, when I hand it to them, it makes an impression. And then I go home and I follow up with an email and my whole system, which is too much to get into here. But the bottom line is, it tips that first domino. And what I wanted to say is that it's not just virtual. It's not just, hey, I'm on iTunes, I'm on Amazon, but you could bring the physical books too, and it's so much credibility. When I speak, if I'm speaking to somebody, and let's say they got 50 people, I say, well, I'll tell you what, as part of my speaking engagement, I want you to buy 50 books and give a book to everybody that comes. All right? And I don't make money on the book. I'll give it to them for their, my cost, $2 a piece or whatever it is. But I'll make sure that if I'm going to be speaking, I want you to give my book so they can take it back with them and have it with them. Now, a couple of things I want to point out. You're talking about your organization, your ability to create content, which I know you, Lee, I completely disagree, but that's okay. That's how you feel. But this took me, well, actually this took me 3 years, okay? And the reason it took 3 years is because I procrastinated for 2 years and 11 months, okay? Then when I got off my ass and finally finished it and took off, I had it sitting on my hard drive for literally 2 years and 11 months. I finally got off my ass, to use your term, and brought it to fruition. That took days, including getting listed on Amazon. And as you probably know, you can get these printed to order from what's called CreateSpace, which is part of Amazon. And that one, it didn't cost me anything. It didn't cost me anything to get that. It just wrote it out and put it up there. Now this one's a different story. All right, and this is a very cool, and I'll tell you guys a little bit behind the scenes here, because I was approached to be in this book. But let me peel back the curtain and tell you a little secret here. I was approached to be in the book, but I also had to pay to be in the book. All right, and here's the reason why. This book was designed from the get-go to be a New York Times bestseller, and it will be. All right, now there's a secret to becoming a New York Times bestseller, and book publishers are in the business, they know that secret. And the bottom line is, it costs money. It costs money. You have to promote things a certain way. You need to make things happen at the retail level. You need to get a lot of things happening, and it costs money. And so what Joel Comm did here, which is absolutely brilliant, was he pooled together 40 authors. I'll tell you that this cost me about $1,200 to be in here. So do the math. You get nearly $50,000, and you go get this thing promoted, and it's going to be a New York Times bestseller. Now, I've got a whole different story. I can say, hey, I've got a book, and it's a nice book, but let's face it, it's thin and it's so forth. Or I can say, hey, I'm part of a New York Times bestseller. Okay? That to me was the next step for me. And this is something, Lee, I've talked to you about it. We're going to do a second act book like this, and we're going to do it this way and go to the people that I know that will make this a New York Times bestseller. So that's something that I want to do with you and find people that would like to be in that book. But because this is just, I'm so thrilled with this. And it, the level of credibility it brings up when you can not only say, hey, I'm on Amazon, but I'm also an author of a New York Times bestseller, that just takes it up to the next level.
Absolutely. That is really, really cool. You know, I think that I like the fact that you did the back-end blueprint book. I mean, I like both of them, but I like the fact that you did the back-end blueprint book too, because that's like you got started with a book. I'm assuming that was not a New York Times bestseller. So,
No.
you know, because I wouldn't want to leave people with the impression of, oh, well, they just said I have to have a New York Times bestseller. No, you don't. Hardly any of those books on Amazon are New York Times bestsellers. I mean, it's just like a tiny, tiny, tiny fraction. And, you know, frankly, Steve, as you've been introducing me to this concept and we've been talking to people and all that stuff, New York Times bestseller is a cool thing, but it's not really all that big of a money-making venture in and of itself. I mean, it's pretty much going to self-liquidate there, you know.
Both of them do, Lee. I'm glad you said that. None of these are money makers for me. I'm really glad you said that. These are positioning. These are branding. These are to make an impression. These are to start a dialogue. These are to get remembered. Okay? They accomplish all those things. And
Right.
the reason why is now when I meet somebody, I could say, I could follow up with them, and, you know, frankly, I'm doing it there to differentiate myself and position myself as the expert. So I send it to them. I said, by the way, here's, if you'd like to check me out, here's my link to my Amazon books. Here's my link to my iTunes. Now, we got a great question here, and it was sent to me privately, so I won't mention the name, but somebody says, let me read it. And he says, okay, that's great. Hang on. Okay, that's great, but how do we, who haven't written any books, etc., build our credibility now? Thank you for that question. Okay. All right, I want to tell you about my first book, which was called The Big Bad Home Sale. All right, The Big Bad Home Sale, let me tell you exactly how I did this. All right, I wrote about something that I wanted to write about. We had our story. Now, our story was that we had to sell a home. Frankly, we were in a position financially where we had to sell a home and move, okay? And the market wasn't good, and our home wasn't selling. And we basically created an event, invited a whole lot of people to our house, really kind of had an auction, and we ended up getting 3 offers in one day and selling our house. Well, I wrote a book about it. That was my first book, and it was called The Big Bad Home Sale. So the bottom line is, I just wrote about something that I knew, something I was passionate about. Now let me tell you how I wrote this book. We sold that house in North Texas, and we were moving down to Austin, Texas. All right? While I was driving my car by myself filled with stuff. My wife was in the other car filled with stuff. While I was driving down there from North Texas to Austin, Texas, about 4 hours, I had a voice recorder open. And I literally dictated into that voice recorder for 4 hours. And I laid it out basically in outline form, which is chapter 1 is this, chapter 2 is this, chapter 3 is this. Then I went back to each chapter and I just started talking. Okay? I went from there and hired a transcriptionist and paid about, I want to say it was about $125 to transcribe the whole thing. She brought it back to me. It was 80% done. I then went and did the final editing, polishing, and stuff, and I spent about 3 days doing that. Okay? That turned into my first book called The Big Bad Home Sale. Now, what I did with that book was, I hardly sold any of that book. Okay? But then what I did was, I created my first podcast from that book. All right? Number one, I read the chapters. That was my podcast. My podcast was, I read the chapters of the book that I dictated in the first place. Okay? I got that podcast listed on iTunes. Same way that I just got this one listed on iTunes. So far, I have less than a week invested in this, of me basically talking, and the only money that I spent was money to pay a transcriptionist. I could have done the work myself, but I did pay to have that done. By the end of the week, I had the podcast. When I had the podcast, I wrote a press release. I sent the press release to a lot of people. 3 weeks later, the Wall Street Journal wrote an article about that, based on my press release. I then took that press release, and since it was about home sales, I started sending the podcast and the Wall Street Journal to some board of realtors. A couple of them hired me to come in as a speaker. They hired me. I'm not a realtor. I don't have my license. In fact, a lot of realtors hated me for what I did because I competed with them. But 2 boards of realtors hired me as a speaker, as the expert about selling homes, to talk to a bunch of realtors. All because of that. All because I dictated into the book, uploaded it, and then got a press release and also put it on iTunes. So for those of you who haven't done it, that's exactly how I did it. Literally, I was driving at the time. So understand that it goes back to what Lee said at the very, very beginning. Okay, he said getting off your ass, but I want you to know that it doesn't have to be perfection. It doesn't have to be a novel. You can start with a book like The Big Bad Home, or Big Bad Home Sale was about 45 pages. I graduated all the way up to 90 pages with this. Now this is a very impressive book. I only wrote 5 pages to be included in this. I did it sitting at this table in my backyard smoking a Babalu is how I wrote the book to be the pages to be in here. So those are all the things that I've done. You can call it bootstrapping, you can call it what you want, but I'm so glad you asked that question about how do you. Those are the ways that I did it, and I do believe that everybody watching today and watching the future can do some variation of what I've done.
Yeah, that's really important, and that's very well said. You know, what's going to separate 1% from the other 99% is just doing something, frankly. And, you know, I mean, people are always, this may not be a fair statement, but many people are oftentimes looking for the formula. You know, the series of steps and all that stuff, and yeah, I understand that. You know, I'm a copywriter. I'm aware of how everybody else's brain works. But the fact is that doesn't exist. That it's really a lot simpler than that. You could get started by shooting 2-minute YouTube videos 3 days a week about something you're passionate about. I mean, it doesn't really even have to be a podcast. I mean, sure, you can buy some software and do the podcast and all that stuff, and that, does it give you more credibility than a YouTube channel? Absolutely it does, because it's just, you know, bigger step and all that stuff. But you just need to get started. I know another guy who's an internet marketer, and again, we're not mentioning names and all that stuff, but he's got a book on Amazon. His book on Amazon is basically, he's a big product creator. He took, it looks like 10 of his written products, put them together and called them a book. I mean, it's a book, right? You hold it, it's got pages, they're numbered, you know, it's a book. So I think a lot of times people set I love what you said about perfection, because that's the thing that kills most people. It's not even perfection. It's some ludicrous idea that you have to do something that meets some sort of standard that's just some crap that you have in your head, basically. And it doesn't. Yeah, you know, you need to, it needs to be grammatically correct. You need to spell words right and all that stuff. But, you know, does this have to be the one thing century about internet marketing or whatever your passion is? No, it doesn't. It just needs to be a book. So you could, I mean, this is going to sound trite, and people are going to think, well, I've heard that before. Yeah, I know you've heard it before, but I bet you haven't done it. You can start a blog. And you can start writing posts. And guess what? When you get 50 of those, guess what you have? Oh, my bad, that's called a book. So you take that stuff, you put it together, you've got a book. Now, who does this? Who does this? Well, Steve, again, we're not mentioning names, but there is a major, if not the major, one of the self-help, law of attraction, marketing author gurus in the world living fairly near you. You know who I'm talking about, right? Yeah, he does this. I've got one of his books in my half bath right here because I like to read his stuff. You know, and what is it? It's a stupid blog post. I'll tell you another person. I can mention this person because it's not like in our world, in our realm. But this is a major content creator, Joel Osteen, the pastor from the mega church in Houston. Well, guess what he does? He takes his, or someone does, takes his sermons, transcribes them, puts them in a book. I personally am Christian. I actually love to listen to Joel Osteen's things on, his sermons on YouTube. And I know he polarizes people, whatever, get over it. I don't really care. But so when I read his book, I'll think, oh man, I remember that. That's cool. That was, I saw that like 3 weeks ago in that replay of a sermon. Well, it's important to me, so I think that's cool. But my point is, this guy makes millions of dollars per year doing this. Okay, so if he can do it, and if the other person that I'm talking about can do it, in other words, big people who are major content creators in our world do what we're talking about. This is, not only do they do this, this is how they do this. So maybe we ought to take a page from what the real pros do and do it ourselves.
Lee, man, that was just a whole fantastic episode in itself. Great stuff. You were right on exactly what I was just about to say about blogging. And folks, if you don't have a blog yet, please start one right now. All right, and do yourself a favor, make it a self-hosted blog. Don't do it on Blogger. Get your own domain. Put up a WordPress site. If you know how to do it, that's great. If you don't know how to do it, again, go to Fiverr. If you know Fiverr.com, Fiverr.com. You could probably get somebody to put up a site for you for $5. Okay, I bet you could. All right.
Yeah.
And I also have some resources. If you ask me in the Google in the Google group, if you ask me for some resources, I will give you some resources. In fact, Lee, I think I'm going to invite a friend of mine who does this, who can set people up on an expert blog site as a done-for-you service, because I love where this has gone today, and I think that we need to challenge everybody on the line today to start blogging, because what you said is exactly right. If you will commit to writing, let's say, challenge yourself to write 3 articles a week, okay? 3 a week. You could do it in half an hour, so you're going to spend an hour and a half a week doing this. All right? In a month, you're going to have 12 articles. 12 articles is perfect for doing a newsletter, okay? In fact, by that time, you could do a newsletter in 2 weeks featuring your 6 articles, and then another newsletter 2 weeks after that. Now, in 3 months, you basically have enough for a book, okay? And if you want to, if you want to get there faster, then just write more posts, okay? I'm doing it in a way that you could spend an hour, hour and a half a week. What do you write about? Whatever you want, whatever you're passionate about, okay? To me, that's what my Rainmaker series is all about. It was something I was passionate about. I wanted to tell my story, all right, and I thought it would inspire people. It was also a little cathartic for me. I got to get a few jabs in there from people that I've been wanting to get a few jabs in over the years. And I love it. My buddy Steve's on the line here, and he's been following this whole thing, and he knows exactly what I'm talking about because Steve was in that part of my life. So my buddy Steve, who's on the line here right now, he worked with me the day that I took the train ride from home, the train ride from hell home. He worked for me. He got he was one of the first calls that I said I just got fired. So he gets a kick out of that when he sees me talking about that because he knows exactly, and he knows the people behind the scenes. It's like, it was funny. I lived in Savannah, Georgia back when, what was that? Come on, Lee. What was the book that came out in the 90s about Savannah, Georgia? Midnight in the Garden of
Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. Yeah.
Right? Which was a true story about a murder in Savannah amongst the high society. Well, the funny thing was, I worked for some of the very people that were in that book, and they'd be reading the book, and even though the characters were, fictitious and had different names, we were like, oh, that's so-and-so, and that's so-and-so, and they got such a kick out of that.
That's pretty funny.
Now, but, so blogging, folks, start blogging. It's the best thing you can do. And I was going to name one more that we can name, Seth Godin.
Oh, yeah.
Seth Godin's books are just collections of his blog posts. And look at him.
Well, so let's do it like this. Let's add some caveats in there. Because a lot of these people that are listening to this come from the realm of internet marketing. So I know what people are going to do. They're going to install Google Analytics, and they're going to obsess over how many people are looking at their stuff and what their bounce rate is. Well, I would challenge you not to do that, because that's not the deal. I would challenge you to just sort of let nature take its course. Because if you start obsessing about that, then you'll get all freaked out about keywords. And look, I can just say right now, keywords and blogging do not go together, despite what people tell you, because keywords really have very little to do with how English is communicated and everything to do with how somebody searches for something. But it's really hard to make those two things mesh up, and then you're going to get all, well, only 4 people looked at my blog post today and all that stuff, and really that doesn't matter. I'll tell you why that doesn't matter. I've got an excellent example. When I first found out that people could make money online, I was basically, I don't know why I was off work at the time, but I was picking my kids up at the elementary school with my wife, and she happened to tell me, she said, there are people making money off the internet. And I said, how do they do that? So they got websites, and they have these little, they call them banner ads, and they put them up there and they make money. And I thought, man, that is really, really cool. And, being the, this is before my inner entrepreneur came out. I thought, man, I'll do that. So I go to work the next day, and I had a little lull in work, and I thought, I'll start researching this. So I'd heard this word blogging. Actually, I bought some book called something about blogging. I've forgotten what the name was. It wasn't all that good. Point taken, I got started, okay, like immediately. And so I thought, I'm sitting there. I like to write anyway, and I like to communicate. So I thought, blogging, that sounds pretty cool. I think I'll do that. So I was Googling blogging. Okay, like how to blog or how to build a blog, and there were 2 major bloggers who came up in the top 10 searches. One was John Chow. Do you know John Chow at johnchow.com? Have you ever heard of him? Steve? Okay, well you need to look him up because he makes several $100,000 a year off of his blog, and has for many years. Now, here is what's cool. John Chow is a mega blogger. But see, so when would this have been? 2007, 2008, somewhere around there? And so I landed on his blog, right? And I started reading it, and I thought, man, this is really cool. So in my spare time, I read every freaking post all the way back to the beginning. Now, John Chow lives in, I think, Vancouver. He's Canadian. He lives in Vancouver. He's of Chinese descent. And I think his parents moved there from somewhere, Shanghai, Hong Kong, somewhere. I don't know the exact story, but um, his first posts on that blog were pictures of his father holding, I think it was holding his daughter as a baby in the snow in front of his house. In other words, it was kind of sort of, this is my blog. It's kind of personal. I'm just talking about stuff, and I don't really know what I'm doing. But over the years, he has turned that into a mega business. You know, a guy speaks at events, stuff like that. So, you know, when you said, let's get blogging, I'm thinking, because I know how people's brains work, well, I don't know what to write about. I've got to, like, stop and obsess about what to write about first. I've got to get my niche figured out. Look, guys, would you please do me a favor? I mean, at least do this. Go to Office Depot or whatever your version of that is. Buy one of those external hard drives. Take all those WSOs that you bought, even mine. It won't hurt my feelings. Take all those WSOs that you bought, put them on the external hard drive, unplug it, and then go hide it somewhere. Okay? Because you need to forget all that crap. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't work, and I'm not dissing on the whole thing. Okay? I'm just saying that you need a clean slate. You need to forget all that crap. You need to sit down with a fresh brain and a fresh start. And you need to say, Lee and Steve said to start communicating with other people about what I'm passionate about. Okay, I'll do that. So I'm going to start a blog. Start a YouTube channel while you're at it. Okay, and don't worry if you're not good looking. All right, nobody really cares. You know, I mean, you know, it really does not matter. Don't worry about what your voice sounds like. Nobody gives a rat's rear end about that either. Now, so get the blog, get the YouTube channel. Don't worry about Facebook too much. That, I mean, you know, two things. Just start with two things. Okay. Start talking about stuff that interests you. Don't even worry. You know, do not install Google Analytics. Just don't do that. Don't install that for about a year. So I'm serious. Do not allow yourself to look at the analytics section of your YouTube channel. Don't read anything about SEO. Just start communicating from your heart. And this thing will work. And now, are you going to become like the SEO whatever freak who makes? I read something, you know, how you can make $300,000 a month with SEO. Yeah, you probably can. There's some businesses in the world who do that. You're not going to do that sitting in your pajamas in front of a laptop. Sorry to tell you that. It just doesn't work that way. So, you know, yeah, you can start a major business, but I'm saying forget all that stuff, get all that garbage. Just you know, get some ice picks and do a personal lobotomy or just do something, right? Just forget all that garbage and start communicating with other people. Get the community. Look, you've had the horse behind the cart this whole time, right? And you had the tail wagging the dog because you were buying all this stuff. Correct me if I'm wrong, Steve. If anybody says, Lee, you're so wrong, let me know. All right? I'm not sure what I'll do when you do that. Just let me know. But I think you've had the tail wagging the dog for ever so long because you've figured all this bad word coming shit out about how to rank YouTube videos and all this garbage and all this crap. And yes, there is a time and a place for that. And it is valuable at the right time in the right place and in the right hands, but that's not what we're talking about. Because, see, it's like you were building a whole thing, except on the inside of the thing there was nothing. All right? I mean, this is like gift wrapping, and you open the package and, oh, my bad, somebody forgot the gift. Okay? So what we're talking about is putting the heart and the soul back in it, and then letting, you know, if you get the inside right, the outside will take care of itself. It really will. So if you can do that and just start. See, just give yourself permission to start and screw up and have like a really wonky looking blog where you're talking about your dog one day and your babies, how many diapers you changed the next day, and how your golf swing sucks the next day. But at some point you will start to hit your stride just like John Chow did. Because you can go back, I don't even know if they're online anymore, but I read the entire thing, and I could tell when he started to hit his stride, and it was really cool. Where he started to get in the groove. You will get in your groove, and don't force your groove. Don't say everybody, they all said that if I talk about this niche over here, well, you may not care about that niche over there. And there's a whole world of things that personally just make me just want to dry heave. I'm that uninterested in. All right. So if you will please just start creating content, you will find your groove. And when you find your groove, other people who like your groove will find you. At that point, you can start monetizing.
Hey, Lee, first of all, I've had polls out there, and we already had a bunch of people. I don't know how many voted. So I don't know if it was 2 or 100. I don't know.
Okay.
I'll look at that later. But I'm a little surprised. It's that important, folks. But I want to say something else because I have a completely different strategy about my blog. I really don't care if anybody ever reads it or if anybody ever finds it. And they do, by the way, because people message me or comment that shows it. In fact, I got somebody from Atlanta once from CNN that called me for an interview about a blog post that I wrote, which happened to be, by the way, it happened to be one of the few personal posts that I wrote. It was about somebody who had passed away that I knew, and I wrote a story about him and how I remembered him, okay? And this was a person who had a following, and so somebody from CNN called me because when they Googled that person, I came up number 2, okay? Here's my whole blog that I write about marketing all the time. CNN calls me because I wrote something about a friend that passed away.
Right.
And that happens, okay? But that aside, I don't write it for the traffic. I love what you said about not installing Google Analytics, not worrying about the traffic. Here's the reason I write blog posts, okay? Number 1, because yes, everything we talked about, it will be repurposed into future content. It will be repurposed into a book, maybe into an audio, maybe a video, maybe a product, okay? But that's number 1. It will be repurposed at a later time. It's there forever, okay? That's a good thing. Hopefully, if you're hopefully. All right. Now, secondly, with me, I use it to get people to take action. Okay. I'm going deep into some things that I teach, and this is my own brand of marketing. But when I send an email to somebody, I don't just send out an email that says, "Hi, how are you? I enjoyed speaking with you." I then give them some follow-up, and I'll say, "By the way, here are 3 things you might be interested in. Bullet 1, bullet 2, bullet 3. All of them linked to a different blog post on my blog." Okay? Now, I am looking and monitoring whether those people click and follow through. Because if they do, they're kind of raising their hand and showing me they have interest. So I'm using my blog post to gather intelligence about who is engaged and then what topic are they engaged in. All right? I am using it strictly for my own intelligence gathering purposes. All right? The traffic that comes and stumbles upon it and finds me accidentally is all gravy. All right? But the only people that are, I will tell you that 90% of the traffic that goes to my blog are people that I drive there with a link.
Yes.
And you saw me do it today. You saw me send out an email today that says, "Hey, check out my new podcast. Here's how I did it. Click on this link." Well, what am I interested in? I'm interested in who clicked on that, because if you did, now I know you're listening to me. You might be interested in podcasting, okay? And maybe you'd want to know more about podcasting. All right. So I use it for my own intelligence gathering, and then yes, okay. Once I write, right now I just wrote 2 blog posts about making my podcast. I'll probably do 4 or 5 or 6 more, and then I'm going to have a series of 8 things about podcasting. Guess what that might become, Lee? If I have 8 steps about podcasting, what do you think that might become?
I'm sensing a product in there somewhere.
Yes. Guess what else it might become a book. It might become a book that I could put up on Amazon or even Kindle, right? All from blog posts.
I'll tell you something that I learned years ago, and it just sort of stuck with me. I love to read literature, and I really love 19th century American literature. I'm not an expert in it or anything. I specifically like Ralph Waldo Emerson. I like Mark Twain a lot, and I like Henry David Thoreau. All 3 of those guys approached their writings in the same way, and it's really interesting. All three of those guys were lecturers and speakers. And all three of them used that lecturing and speaking to sort of, create material, especially Mark Twain, to sort of create material to see what the audience thought about it. I mean, they didn't have the internet, right? See what the audience thought about it, sort of do little test runs on things. And it was only after they kind of done that they put it together and turned it into printed material. So, in other words, again, what we're talking about is something that is not new. It's really old. It is the way that professional communicators have been doing this stuff for a long time. And a lot of people think you just sit down in a little bubble and just create all this thing and send it out there. And maybe some people do, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people, even pre-internet days, a lot of people have all of these various ways of communicating, and they're highly aware of what people think, and they're very, very aware of how people think, and what they do. What the internet has done basically is it's just allowed everybody who wants to do this. You don't have to, the stars do not have to align and create a Mark Twain in order for someone to do this, right? So this is available for anybody who will have the gumption to get off the rear end and start actually doing this.
Whoops. Yeah, here I am. I'm back. All right.
Yeah.
We took a second poll, Lee, and I asked who'd like help with YouTube videos, and we got more yeses than nos on that one.
Cool.
And again, I'll look afterwards to see what the quantities are. And I'm asking a final question right now, and we're already at the top of the hour. This hour has flown by.
Man, it really has, hasn't it?
Yeah, so real quickly, answer that last question for me, which is, would you like help with a podcast? All right. And I think this is great because I think we found some things of secondhand career success, covered these subjects: how to do videos, how to do blog posts, and how to do podcasts, if that's what people want to know.
Very cool. Sounds good to me.
Lee, let's start wrapping it up. We'll go a little bit late today because we've really had a lot of momentum. It was a great hangout today, but let's start winding it down. Some of your thoughts.
Get started. I mean, I just cannot say that so many times. I don't do a lot of coaching, frankly, because I get really frustrated. People pay me tons of money to do stuff, and I tell them how to do stuff, and guess what? The stuff that I tell them how to do actually works, and it's kind of independent of the person doing it, and then they don't do anything. And it's not really I find that remarkable, and I find it frustrating. I understand that there is some sort of, I call it the abyss. Okay, I understand that there's some sort of abyss, a chasm. Most of it's an internal limitation that you have in your head, if not all of it. But I understand that there's a chasm that people have to figure out how to cross. But really, and I think it's a bunch of stuff, but it's all interrelated around things like too much control, not enough serendipity, giving yourself permission to screw up. Well, what if I do screw up? I mean, well, it's okay, so what if you do screw up? I'm guessing that you have screwed up at some point in the past. God knows I have. And I'm hoping that you'll be alive. So let's say, Steve, that we want people to actually do something for a month, okay? So God willing, they're going to be here next month, all right? So let's mathematically look at the possibilities. You could do nothing and be here next month, right? And then you're just in the same boat that you were right now. You could do something and totally screw it up and be here next month. Well, you probably learned something, and despite everything, you're probably a little closer to where you want to go. You could do something, and guess what? It might work really well. Probably what it's going to do is kind of sort of work. You're going to get some traction and be here next month. Just not wake up tomorrow morning and not be here next month. All of those are possibilities, And I'm stating all that because, especially the last one. The last one's like the key to this whole thing is just need to give yourself permission to actually just go do something. And the reason that I said take all the WSOs, and basically what I was saying, I'm not hating on WSOs. God knows I've created close to 100 now. I mean, it's insane, right? I mean, seriously, I've got close to 100 products on my site now. But I'm saying, so I'm not hating on that. That has a time and a place. And actually, that information is really good, but that's not what we're talking about. I'm saying that you need to take all of those preconceptions, all of those rules and regulations, all of those assumptions. Notice what 3 letters the word assumption starts with. Take all of those assumptions and just throw them away. Give yourself permission and time to grow. Give yourself permission to get in the middle of something that you absolutely do not understand. You have no idea whether it's going to work. It could be a total waste, just a laughable waste of time. Because when you do that and you give yourself that permission, you know, Steve, that's when you start making progress in this stuff. Is when you do that. Is when you think, I mean, I have got some monumental failures. I've got some really good successes, but I got some monumental failures. They all come together. There's no, you know, there's no way to have one without the other. They're 2 sides of the coin. So, you know, just give yourself permission without microanalyzing. You know, is it going to work? 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 Would you please turn that voice inside of your head off? Okay, just do something. You know, I mean, just turn that off and give yourself like 6 months of total screwing up time in your part time. Just say, okay, the next 6 months I'm going to massively screw up with this. 6 months from now, you'll be in an entirely different place if you will take that attitude.
Well, Lee, you know, the other thing is, if you massively screw up by taking action, you're still doing better than you did by not taking action, right?
That's what I'm saying.
You're going to accidentally succeed even while you screw up. You're going to accidentally get a client. You're going to accidentally sell a product. You're going to accidentally do something right, okay?
You accidentally have somebody email you and say, hey man, I read that blog post. That was really cool. Yes.
You're also
Right.
You're also going to accidentally get the information that you don't have today about what you need to do to be successful. Because everything we do, Lee, we get information back, correct? And the reason we're going to be so much better 6 months from now is because of the information that we're going to get back that we act upon. And I'll give you a perfect example because we've proven it in 1 hour and 4 minutes today. In 1 hour and 4 minutes today, I have been able to get information about 4 different questions. Okay? Would you guys like to know more about a blog? Would you like to know more about podcasting, more about videos, and now more about product creation? And I'm going to ask one more. Would you like to know more about, would you like help with a book? I'm going to do that one. It's going to be our last question for the day. Okay? So just by taking action and being here today, just by being, taking action and being here today, we have got valuable information that's going to help us in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, the key is action. And, you know, taking action is like 97% of this whole thing. And the rest of it really does sort of figure itself out. It really does.
Absolutely.
So please take all of this whole construct of shoulds and, you know, SEO this and keyword that, and, you know, who's making money with CPA. Should I do CPA this week and, you know, video marketing next week? Well, what about video ads? So I have cheap. Just take all that and please put it away. You can use that later on, okay? I mean, you know, Facebook retargeting, I do Facebook retargeting, but I've got a reason to do Facebook retargeting, right? So you can use all that later on. But start at the beginning, okay? Quit trying to jump over to second base, okay? Let's find the city where the ballpark's on first. So, and I don't mean that as a slam. I mean that as, let's take baby steps. Remember the movie Baby Steps? I love that movie. Progress. Because the
Hey, I want
fact
to
of the
check
matter
out.
is, when you find another person who digs your thing, that's it. You've found the group.
Exactly. Speaking of the group, all right, I put a few links into the chat box. Number one, there was interest in podcasting, so I have written 2 blog posts on podcasting. I put the links to those in the chat group, in the chat box. I also put a link to the Second Act Google Plus group in the chat box. If you're not a member of that group, please click on that link right now and join that group. All right, and let's really start a dialogue this week. We've been okay. We've gotten some members there, but I haven't seen a lot of dialogue in our group yet. But we really touched on some things today. I will commit to you to come into that commit to me, not you, Lee, but you, the group. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
you guys commit to me that you're going to participate in the group, and if you want help with these things, if you want help with podcasting, if you want help with finding your niche or your passion, this is the type of stuff that I work with my coaching students on. But I'll also work in the group on this too, within the group confines, so that everybody benefits. So if you guys commit to me to really work within that group, then I will also come in there and put my guidance. And Lee, we have people here interested in product creation, and there's nobody I know better at product creation than you, and I hope you'll help with that.
Absolutely, sure.
Yeah, yeah. What a session! What a
No,
great,
that's cool.
great session. Yeah. Hey, let's look at the. Let me end this last poll here. Last poll was, yeah. So 3/4 of people want help with a book also. All right. So let's make these topics at in the Google Plus group. Get in that link. Get in that group, and let's get this conversation going. And I will contribute, and I'll look for everybody to contribute as well. And hey, folks, if you go out there and you have a success story, then we're going to help you share it and tell the world. You know, many of you that want to create products, well, you obviously need help promoting those products. And I can tell you that I will be as proud as can be to see that you guys are taking action and making these things happen. Believe me, you know, I'll let you get up on my soapbox. I would be very, very proud of that. And I imagine, Lee, I'm putting words in your mouth, but I imagine you would too.
Oh, are you kidding? Absolutely. I don't see enough of that, actually.
Mm-hmm. So let's make that happen. Let's make that happen. And I said earlier at the very beginning, Lee and I have spoken about this. I want to do something like this for Second Act Career Success. If you think you have a story, and if you want to be a part of it, and I will tell you, so I'm not pitching, but you know, because you can private message me individually. This is not going to be a pitch fest, but I would say in early 2015, I want to have a book that I want to put out there with a marketing budget. There will be a cost to participate, but you'll be able to have a chapter in a book, and we're going to go for a New York Times bestseller quality book.
Yep.
I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to do it from within our own group.
I'm loving
All right.
it.
Oh, I'm loving this too. This is great stuff. I'm really, really loving this. So let's wind it up for today. It's been a great session. We've gone a little bit long, but it's been great. And I want to thank everybody for being here. We had a great crowd today and great participation. Thank you so much. Get involved in the community, number one. Number two, help spread the word. You know people who would benefit from this also. Lee said it early on in week one. This is a movement, and we need everybody to help make that movement and get that momentum going. Let's get this thing spinning and rolling downhill.
Very cool.
Lee, awesome, my friend. Man, you're on fire today. On fire.
Maybe it's because I've had my two bad technology days.
Well, and let's face it, there's another year of wisdom under your belt, too.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm 150. I'm 157th more wise than I was a few days ago.
And I know you know that percentage out to 6 decimal places already in your head. And I'm going to wish my lovely wife Sherry a happy birthday tomorrow. She's a Halloween baby, and so like you taking your birthday off, I'm taking my wife's birthday off tomorrow.
Good for you. That's a great
Yeah.
idea.
So love you, Sherry. Mwah. Happy birthday, and everybody else, love you too. Mwah. Let's keep this ball rolling.
Sounds good to me. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great week. We'll talk to you next week, and we'll see you in the community. This has been Second Act Career Success with Steve Rosenbaum and Lee Cole. See you later, everybody.
Bye.